Look, I don't really post stuff online. I barely even comment. But after what happened last night, I can't just sit here and keep in my head. If this post disappears, or I go quiet, you'll know I wasn't supposed to talk. I work night security at the Hamilton Gallery of World Art. Been there for 6 years. Boring job for the most part. Cameras, patrols, paperwork, repeat. The biggest incident I've ever had before now was a drunk guy in the sculpture garden last summer. But last night, August 9th, 2:17 a.m., I saw something I can't explain. I was walking through the Renaissance Hall, same route as always, when I noticed the overhead light flicker. It's a brand new bulb. We replaced it last week after the old one died. That got my attention because in this building, anything out of routine is usually bad news. Then I saw it. The Vermeer. Girl with a lute by the window. We keep it behind a laser grid, climate-controlled, insured for $27 million. And it was crooked, just slightly like someone had bumped it. That frame is never crooked. I radioed in. No response. Just static. Tried again, same thing. At this point, my pulse was going because either there's a system failure or someone's jamming us. I walked up to the painting to straighten it. Heavy frame, heavier than it looks. When I shifted it back, I heard this weird thought from inside the wall. Not the sound of the frame hitting plaster, more like something hollow with something inside. I leaned in, pressed my ear to it. Scraping. Slow. Rhythmic. Like something sliding along stone. I know I should have called it in again. I know that. But curiosity won. I pulled on the frame. To my shock, it swung forward like it was on hidden hinges. Behind it, darkness. Inside the wall was a narrow space, maybe a foot deep, and in that space was a rolled-up canvas tied with old, brittle twine. I pulled it out. The twine snapped in my hands. The roll loosened just enough for moonlight to hit the surface. It was the same painting. The exact same girl with a lute by the window. Same brushstrokes, same pigments, down to the microscopic cracks in the paint. Except the girl's eyes were open, and she was looking straight at me. I swear on my life, the eyes didn't just look painted. They looked alive, wet, reflective. Before I could process it, the skylight above dimmed. A shadow passed over it. It was shaped like a person, but stretched wrong, limbs too long. When my flashlight hit the glass, nothing was there. Then every alarm in the building went off. Red strobes, ear-splitting sirens. The main lights died instantly. I don't know what possessed me, but I tucked the second painting under my arm. My radio crackled back to life just long enough for a voice to say, "David, drop it. You don't know what you're holding." It wasn't anyone from my team. I ran. I could hear footsteps somewhere in the museum, fast, unsteady, coming closer. And then I saw it. A man in a security uniform. Only his face was smooth. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just skin like polished marble. He pointed at the canvas I was holding, then at the floor between us. The red lights flickered. He vanished. I bolted for the east exit and made it outside into the rain. Thought I was safe until I heard a voice right behind me. "Come, way too close. You took her out, David. Now you can't put her back." I'm writing this because I haven't slept since. The second painting is locked in my car trunk right now, and I don't know what to do. If anyone knows anything about a hidden version of that Vermeer, eyes open, please tell me. First off, thanks to everyone who commented on my first post. I honestly thought it would get buried. Instead, I woke up after 2 hours of fake sleep, to 100 DMs and a few very specific messages from accounts that had no post history. Some of them were telling me to burn the second painting immediately. Some told me not to destroy it under any circumstances. One message just said, "Look under the frame." This morning, I decided to take the second painting somewhere with good light. My apartment is a basement unit, too dim. So I drove out to my cousin's place. He's an art student, knows way more about this stuff than I do, but I didn't tell him everything about how I got it. Just said I found it during inventory. He unrolled it carefully, and right away he noticed something. It's not just an exact copy of the Vermeer. It's on canvas that looks older than the one in the museum. The craquelure, those tiny paint cracks, is deeper, more uneven. He said that if this is a fake, it's the most convincing fake he's ever seen. Then he did the thing I never thought to do. He turned it over. The back isn't blank like the museum's version. It's covered in faded handwriting, almost all in Dutch. My cousin only recognized a few words: window, listen, and keeper. There was also a date, 1659. For reference, the official date of the museum's Vermeer is 1660, meaning this could be older. Before I could process that, my cousin asked if he could photograph it for his professor. I said sure. We took maybe 10 shots with his DSLR. But here's the thing. In every single photo, the girl's eyes are closed. I mean completely shut, like she's asleep. My cousin laughed it off as old pigment reacting to flash, but I could tell he was unsettled. He asked if I wanted him to keep it his place. I said no. Something about leaving it behind felt wrong. On the drive back, I noticed a black sedan following me for about 5 miles. Could have been coincidence, but every time I changed lanes, it did too. When I finally pulled into a crowded gas station, it drove past without stopping. No plates on the front. Back at work tonight, I checked the spot behind the Vermeer again. The hidden compartment was gone. Like not sealed, literally part of the wall had been replaced. Fresh plaster, paint still smelling new. No hinges, no cavity. No one on staff says they touched it. Also, our head of security, Grant, called me into his office. He told me there'd been a glitch in the alarm system last night. Nothing to worry about. And then asked if I'd noticed anything unusual. I lied and said no. Before I left, he leaned in and said quietly, "If you ever see that painting again, walk away." I didn't ask which painting he meant. I didn't have to. If anyone knows how to translate 17th century Dutch, I'll post a clear photo of the writing on the back. I'm not sure if I should, but my curiosity is winning right now. Also, if you were the account that messaged me about looking under the frame, what exactly am I supposed to find? I've been thinking about those words on the back of the second painting nonstop. You'd think after what's happened so far, I want to shove this thing into a storage locker and forget it exists. But that's not me. I'm the kind of idiot who keeps poking at something just to see if it moves. I didn't want to post too soon without actually bringing something to the table, so I spent the last couple of nights researching, and I mean real, obsessive digging. I've been using the old newspaper archives at the city library, poking around Dutch history sites, even messaging strangers in art forums, hoping someone knows something about weird 17th century inscriptions. Here's what I've got so far. When my cousin and I first looked at the second painting, he noticed handwriting on the back of the canvas. It was faded, but not impossible to read in certain light. Some of it was in Old Dutch, the rest looked like a rough English translation. I finally sat down and copied it word for word, then asked around online for help translating the Dutch parts. Multiple people came back with the same rough version. By the window she waits. The music keeps her sleeping. The keeper listens. The phrasing gave me chills because of how it lines up with the stuff I've been experiencing. The music I've heard in the Renaissance Hall, the strange figure that appeared the night I found the second painting. The voice telling me I can't put her back. The keeper was the word that stuck with me. It didn't sound like just a poetic nickname. It sounded like a title. I started digging through art history databases, searching for references to a keeper tied to Vermeer. At first, I got nothing but random mentions of museum security staff in modern articles. But then I got lucky, and by lucky, I mean I clicked on a scanned document I almost ignored. It was an 1873 inventory from a small museum in Delft, Vermeer's hometown. The museum closed in the late 1800s, but the archives are digitized. Among the listed items was a painting called Double Warder, which, as someone kindly pointed out in my DMs, means the keeper in Dutch. There were no surviving photos, but the inventory included a handwritten description. A portrait of a man without a face, wearing the uniform of a guard, standing beside a girl at a window. That description made me freeze. In my first post here, I mentioned the figure I saw in the museum hallway. Security uniform, but no face. I didn't connect it to anything until now. It gets stranger. The notes in the Delft archive say De Bewaarder was removed from public display in 1889 after persistent complaint from staff. There's no official record of where it went afterward. The museum closed within a few years. But one letter from a curator survived, and the wording is almost identical to what was written on the back of my second painting. The painting watches those who watch it, and the girl's eyes will open when the keeper tires. I have no idea how this curator's private letter ended up echoing the inscription on the back of my painting. It's too specific to be coincidence. Here's the part one almost didn't mention. I think I've seen the keeper more than once now. 2 nights ago, I was doing my rounds and passed through the East Wing. It's not where the Vermeer hangs. That's in the Renaissance Hall. But as I came around the corner, I thought I saw someone standing perfectly still at the end of the corridor. Security uniform, cap pulled low. When I called out, it didn't move. Not even a twitch. I took 1 step forward and the lights flickered, literally just one overhead bulb flickering. And when my eyes adjusted, they were gone. No sound of footsteps. No doors opening. Just gone. After that, I decided I needed to check the security footage from the night I first found the second painting. Officially, we're not supposed to review footage without clearance, but Grant, head of security, was in the control room last night, so I took my shot. I pulled up the Renaissance Hall feed from August 9th, starting at 2 a.m. and running through to 2:30. I watched myself walk in, noticed the crooked painting step forward. Then, right at the moment I touch the frame, the video jumps. Not a normal static glitch. It's like someone sliced out about 10 seconds. In one frame, my hands are on the frame. The next frame, I'm already walking away holding something under my arm. The second painting. The metadata says the file hasn't been altered. No edits. No corruption. Just missing time. But here's what really freaked me out. If you pause on the very last frame before the jump, literally the fraction of a second before it cuts, you can see the left edge of the Vermeer's frame in the corner of the shot. And resting on that frame is a hand. It's not mine. The sleeve is the same dark blue as our uniform jackets, but the skin is pale and smooth, too smooth. No wrinkles, no fingernails. Just a perfect shape of a hand. When the footage jumps forward, the hand is gone. So now I'm sitting here, typing this on my break, wondering if the thing I saw in the hallway and the figure from the first night are both the keeper. And if that's true, then why is the girl in the second painting looking at me instead of him? I don't think I'm done with this. Or maybe it's not done with me. I wasn't going to post again this soon. After my last update about the keeper, I figured it would be better to slow down, gather more info, and not turn into one of those people who posts every random noise they hear. But last night, something happened that I can't explain, and I think if I wait too long, I'll start doubting my own memory of it. I was in the security office on my break, drinking stale coffee and scrolling on my phone. My main social account is private, and I don't use it for stuff like this, so most of my museum story posts have been done from a throwaway. That's why it was weird when I got a new message request on the throwaway account. No profile picture. No posts. Username, Bewaarder1659. If you've been following my posts, you'll know Bewaarder means keeper in Dutch. And the number 1659, that's the year written on the back of the second painting. For a second, I thought it was one of you guys trying to mess with me. But then I opened it. Private messages, typos left in. Bewaarder1659, you put her in your car trunk. That's not where she belongs. Me, who is this? Bewaarder1659, the keeper listens. The girl is restless. Me, if this is some joke, I'm not playing along. Bewaarder1659, August 9th, 2:17 a.m. You touched the frame twice before opening it. Me, how would you know that? Bewaarder1659, because I was in the room. Me, send me proof. Bewaarder1659, sends image. The photo they sent wasn't one of the usual camera angles from our security system. It was taken from directly above the Vermeer, looking straight down. We don't have a camera there. I've been in that hall hundreds of times. There's nothing on the ceiling except lighting and a smoke detector. The image shows me standing in front of the Vermeer. Next to me, cast onto the floor, is a shadow. It's shaped like a person, but sharper and darker than it should be, like it was under direct sunlight in the middle of a moonless night. The worst part? In the shadow, the head is tilted at that same unnatural angle I saw on the faceless figure in the hallway. I was staring at the image for maybe a minute before they messaged again. Bewaarder1659, the keeper isn't mine. It isn't yours either. Me. Then whose is it? Bewaarder1659, it belongs to the music. After that, nothing. No replies. When I tried to check the profile, it was gone. Deleted, or maybe it never existed. Here's where it gets stranger. About 5 minutes after the messages stopped, I heard something in the Renaissance Hall. Not footsteps, I know what those sound like in that room, but music. Soft lute music, the exact kind you'd imagine from the painting. It wasn't coming from the overhead system. I even checked the control panel. All audio feeds were off. It was coming from inside the room. When I stepped through the doorway, the music stopped instantly. No slow fade, just silence. I checked every corner, every display case. Empty. I walked up to the Vermeer. I don't know why. Maybe I was expecting to see something different. The girl in the painting was exactly as she always is. Head slightly tilted down, eyes closed, playing her lute. No change. Still, the music was real. I know I heard it. I went back to the control room and reviewed the audio pickup from the hall's environmental mics. They're low quality, meant for detecting glass breaks or loud disturbances, not subtle sounds. But right around the time I was in there, the levels spike. Not in a way that shows a clear melody, just a faint, regular pattern that could be music if you already knew to expect it. Here's the thing I can't stop thinking about. It belongs to the music. That's what they said. The writing on the back of the second painting says, "The music keeps her sleeping." What happens if the music stops? I'm not saying I'm going to test it. I'd have to be insane to try. But part of me, the part that pulled the painting out of the wall instead of reporting it, is tempted. Also, a small note before I end this. When I left the museum this morning, I checked my car trunk. The second painting was exactly where I left it. But there were 2 faint, dusty fingerprints on the canvas cover. They were too big to be mine. If I post again, it might be because I did something very stupid. A lot of you told me to leave it alone. I read every single comment and DM, the warnings, the theories, the messages telling me to burn the second painting or lock it up and forget it. I understand why you're all saying that. But the truth is, I'm not built that way. Once I've seen something strange, I have to know more. And after that message in part 4, it belongs to the music. I couldn't stop thinking about what would happen if the music stopped. So, last night, I decided to find out. Before my shift, I drove the second painting to the museum. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But I didn't want to test this anywhere else. I needed the controlled environment, the quiet, the fact that I'd be the only one in the building after hours. I carried it up to the 3rd floor break room, the one tucked away near the archives, no cameras inside. I set it on the table face up, but didn't take my eyes off it until I'd covered it with a clean white sheet. On my phone, I had a 4-hour loop of lute music queued up, the same style as in the painting, soft and repetitive. I connected it to the break room's little Bluetooth speaker and hit play. The plan was simple. Let the music run, patrol as usual, and at the same time, each night when I'd been hearing that faint music in the Renaissance Hall, I'd stop it. See what happened. First hour, nothing. I checked on the painting, sheet still in place, no movement. Second hour, same. The music had blended so much into the background noise that I barely noticed it anymore. By the 3rd hour, I was starting to feel stupid. I kept thinking about all the ways this could backfire. What if I was caught bringing it in? What if nothing happened and I just hyped myself up over nothing? Then at 2:16 a.m., 1 minute before the exact time I found it on August 9th, the speaker cut out. No fade, no battery warning, just dead silence. I thought maybe the Bluetooth had disconnected. I walked into the break room, phone still in my hand. The sheet was still over the painting. But when I reached for the speaker, I saw something through the fabric. A faint, curved shadow where the girl's head would be. Only it wasn't in the same position anymore. I pulled the sheet off. Her head had tilted, just a few degrees, but enough to change the way she was looking. Instead of facing forward, her gaze was angled toward the right edge of the canvas. And in that moment, I realized the hair on the back of my neck was standing up, because I wasn't alone in the hallway. I froze. Somewhere outside the break room, maybe 10 feet away, I could hear slow, steady footsteps. Not the light, random taps of someone wandering. These were measured, heavy, and deliberate. I killed the lights in the break room and stood still, waiting. The footsteps stopped. I took 1 step toward the door, just enough to see the corridor. It was empty. I turned back to the table. The sheet was gone. The second painting was still there, except it wasn't the same. The girl was gone. Her loot was on the windowsill. The chair she'd been sitting on was empty. The rest of the scene, the draped curtain, the light falling across the wall, was exactly as before. Just no girl. I backed away slowly, heart pounding, tried to process it. Then my phone vibrated in my hand. New message request. No profile picture, no username, just account deleted. The message said, "She's awake." Before I could even react, another message came through. "Don't turn around." I don't know why I listened, but I froze. My eyes stayed on the painting, on that empty chair. And then, just at the edge of my vision, something moved in the doorway. It wasn't fast, more like a slow lean. The kind of movement you only notice when you're already watching for it. I didn't turn to face it. I couldn't. The next sound I heard was soft, almost too quiet. Strings being plucked. Lute strings. But they weren't coming from the painting anymore. They were coming from inside the room. I'm ending this here because I need to lock the break room and figure out what to do before morning staff gets here. If you don't see another post from me, you'll know I didn't figure out in time.